couple things to talk about in relation to the things that I did is that your handle became loose. I took it off and I re-glued it, cleaned the pieces off, and so that there was resin to resin instead of paint. I fixed that. This meter and the other two meters up the top, I took them out and I completely repainted them. I used a nice glossy paint with them, or not glossy paint, but a really thick silver paint. It's really shiny. I kind of like that. I took the handle off basically because I just didn't want it flapping around when I was working. When I got the kit, there was a scratch on here that happened, I guess, in shipping or whatever. I'm not really sure, but I didn't do anything about it. I think it kind of is a good cosmetic look on there, but that's that. Another thing to talk to you about was that I replaced the original vacuum tubes with these the LEDs for the vacuum tubes with some that pulsate. So those LEDs are they pulsate at random. They're all in parallel with one another, but they do pulsate at random. So whenever you first turn it on, they will all be on, and then after a few seconds, they start to get out of sync with one another, and I think that gives it a nice effect. So there's that. The other thing, I guess, to talk to you about was that the cabinet. I could not use the feet to mount the cabinet to the CRD to the cabinet because it was. I had to run the fiber optics down through it. I guess I can pull the back off so you can see what that looks like. So you can see the. I had to massively open up this chamber so that I could. Have enough room to run the fiber optics. So there's the 6 fiber optics that run across the front panel, and then I also had to do the thing with the fiber optics in there, and so there's 24 fiber optics running down here. So this is the power switch, the back panel. So there's the that's the power jack. It's a 12-volt power jack going into that. There's a fuse on it. You see some screw heads on there. Those are for the regulator boards that I use. This is the on and off switch for it. I'll explain how that works. So whenever you turn it on, the first thing that's going to happen is you'll hear the sound effect. That sound effect runs for 2 minutes, and when it stops, you can simply press the button back here again, and it will start the sound effect running again. Okay, and then you also notice that there is a little bit of a lag for the effects for the fiber optics starting to go. It takes about 2 or 3 seconds for them to start for the board to start operating and firing. I taped this in place. This panel is going to be screwed on. I've got 10 screws on it, so it'll be screwed in place. I just have it taped here for the time being. Let me go ahead and pull it off so you can see the inside. So well, I'll stay inside here. So the board is mounted here. There's all the fiber optics. My camera's not being very focusy. That's the Arduino board. This is the custom board with the custom manifolds that I also put onto it. There's a regulator board on it. There's a screw on there. You never want to adjust that. There are also screws on the other regulator boards. You never want to adjust those. If you do that, if you adjust this screw on any of these boards, you can increase the voltage too much and things will blow out, and that is not covered by warranty. So let's go back into here. So for the fiber optics, I ran the fiber optics down through these tubes, basically to keep them sort of separated from one another. It's a little bit jumbly in there, but it's just the nature of the beast. I had no idea what fiber was coming down here, so I had to go and figure that out. I had to put light into this end, look at it on the front panel, and look at it on the front panel as it, until I find out which one it was. Then I plugged it into the appropriate location on the manifold, and then glued it in place with super glue. And then I also used zap kicker basically to accelerate the fiber, or accelerate the super glue so that the fiber couldn't slip out. I think it's pretty robust. This is the thing that makes me most nervous when I go to ship this to you, is that if this gets banged up or not. I haven't decided. I may put some bubble wrap inside there to make it a little bit more protected, but I haven't decided. When I ship this to you, it's going to be laying on its back. The panel will be mounted to it, and it'll be laying on its back. So the other thing to know about the panel here is this. So I'll go through each one of these. This is the regulator board for the sound card, and that's the speaker for it. This is the main power switch, and then this is the trigger switch for the sound effect. So that just triggers this, and so the sound effect starts to play. The sound effect does not interact with the flashing of lights or anything like that. It's just a sound effect. The two regulator boards down here, one is 3 volts, that's for the white LEDs, and then there's one for 2 volts, that's for the yellow LEDs and for the front panel LEDs. I'm going to try to set this camera up so I can show you this. There we go. So there are 2 jacks there that get plugged together. They are opposite of one another, so there's pins and sockets on this side. Sorry, I'm out of focus. There are pins and sockets on this side. There's sockets and pins on the other side, so you cannot plug those in physically backwards. The other connector that you need to be aware of is this is a straight 12-volt line. Comes from the switch, and it goes to the Arduino board. So there's just a phone jack there, that kind of an affair. And then all the wires that were not associated with the Arduino are basically they're glued in place. I could get them back out if maintenance ever happened to had to happen to this. I guess that's the other thing to say to you is that I try to give myself as many back doors as I possibly could so that I could take things apart if I had to. The downside to this is that it cannot be removed. The fiber optic manifold or the spark disc, that cannot be removed. It's super glued in place, and the front panel of it's glued in place, and it can never come apart. If I had to fix that, if something happened, if any of these fibers broke and I had to fix that, I'd have to do it external to that. Otherwise, it becomes major surgery to try to break that part off and redo the whole thing. So just be aware of that. I think I've run this for hours and hours and hours, and it's been pretty robust. I want to let it run for a little bit more before I ship it, but there's other things we'll want to talk about shipping, and what else. If maybe I might do some other work to this before I ship it, but we can talk about that when we talk by phone. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed the little video, and that I will try to get this put together and sent off to you so you can see it before we talk. At any rate, you'll also see some pictures. All right, Mark, thanks. And I need long lengths of fiber optic that are pretty straight. And then, as you can see, when you buy fiber optic, often it's very curled up, and it was becoming unwieldy to work on the project. I'll show you what that project looks like here in a little bit. I just wanted to show you this kind of method that I was using to straighten them out. So essentially, what I've got here, I clamped up on my nice Dremel vise. I clamped up a hair flattener, woman's hair flattener, and essentially all I do is I take a damp cloth. In this case, it's a damp paper towel. I just dampen it up a bit. I put the fiber optic into it, sandwich it in between it. Put it into the jaws of the hair flattener. Close the jaws. Hold it there for a couple seconds. You want to let it to start to steam a little bit, and then just essentially start pulling on it. This is about an 18-inch length. So I'm pulling it through. It's taking me about maybe 30 seconds or so to pull it through. And I don't want to pull it through too fast because then it won't straighten it very well. But the heat's basically relaxing the plastic fiber. So this is not a glass fiber, it's a plastic fiber. And as you can see, or I will post some pictures if you can't see this very well, but it does give you a nice straight end, or straight run of the fiber versus what I started off with. So it works out pretty well. It's a little bit tedious to do it, but it does work pretty well to get things straight. So just thought I'd share that with you. I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you next time.